Natikom merħba anka tal-li oġobkom tiġu għal din il-press conference mill-Life Network Foundation. Bħala parti mix-xogħol tagħna li nrawmu kultura li toss u tapprezza l-ħajja mill-konċepiment sal-mewt, il-Fondazzjoni favur il-ħajja u l-Familja Life Network Foundation Malta għandha l-pjaċir tilqa' lil Kiessling mill-Istati Uniti. Rebecca hija avukata li tiddefendi l-ħajja tagħha u tiddefendi l-ħajja ta' ħaddieħor. Tivvjaġġa madwar id-dinja biex trawwem kuxjenza favur il-protezzjoni tal-ħajja mingħajr distinzjoni. Huwa faċli ħafna li tiddefendi l-ħajja ta' persuni adulti, li tiddefendi l-ħajja ta' tfal, għax narawhom u nirrelataw magħhom. Iżda kemm huwa aktar diffiċli niddefendu t-tarbija fil-ġuf li qatt ma rajna. Ħarsa madwarkom anke lejn nies li tħobbu fil-ħajja tagħkom. U forsi anke timmaġinaw li dawn nies forsi setgħu ma jeżistewx imma kien b'deċiżjoni li huma ħajjin. Mill-ewwel hekk turik il-valur tal-ħajja, il-valur tal-ħajja umana, kemm importanti, kemm hemm differenza kbira minn niddiskutu issues għal niddiskutu l-ħajja ta' persuni, ta' ħajjiet umani. Il-messaġġ ta' Rebecca huwa messaġġ tal-gruppi kollha li jaħdmu favur il-ħajja u dini li l-ħajja umana dejjem għandha valur, irrelevanti miċ-ċirkostanzi li fih tiġi konċepita. Il-fatt li tarbija tkun konċepita f'sitwazzjoni li mhix favorevoli bħal rejp jew affarijiet oħra li jkunu violenti jew inkella mhumiex sitwazzjonijiet sbieħ, xorta ma jnaqsux il-valur ta' dik il-ħajja umana, laqqas ma jnaqsu mid-dinjità tagħha. F'dawn l-atti kundannabbli il-mara kif ukoll it-tarbija ikunu vittmi innoċenti. Ma jagħmilx sens li att violenti bħal rejp ikun ġustifikat b'att iktar violenti bħal abort, fejn il-mara tispiċċa violentata darbtej. Il-kriminal huwa min iwettaq l-istupru, mhux il-mara, lanqas it-tarbija innoċenti. Dawn huma ċ-ċirkostanzi li minnhom twildet Rebecca. Rebecca titkellem dwar id-dritt tal-ħajja mill-konċepiment mingħajr distinzjoni. Hija l-vuċi ta' dawk it-trabi li ma jitħallewx jitwildu li ħafna drabi aħna anka meta nsemmuhom riżultat ta' rejp, insemmuhom anka b'ċertu disprezz. Rebecca hija vuċi għal dawn it-tfal li forsi għall-ewwel darba meta nħarsu lejha ngħidu iva vera, il-ħajja tagħhom xorta għandha valur. Fil-fatt dejjem għandha l-valur, il-ħajja ta' kulħadd. Naddi issa għal Rebecca taf spjegajtilha jiena xedt bil-Malti. Rebecca, now I give the mic over to you to explain your message in favor of life and how legislation matters to keep life protected.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. I traveled here from my home state of Michigan because I understand that Malta could be at risk, like many other nations. The majority of nations around the country don't have rape exceptions. I have a global organization called Save the One that is comprised of hundreds, over 400 like me, in our database who were conceived in rape or incest, mothers who became pregnant by rape, who are either raising their children or they're birth mothers or they miscarried, or they are post-abortive from rape and regret aborting. Often in these debates, this discussion, many voices are heard, but the voice of the child conceived in rape is not heard. And so I do hope to be a voice for those children who deserve to be protected just like anyone else. I'm an attorney. I've litigated high-profile issues defending human life, including cases related to the issue of abortion and rape. I also wrote a philosophical abortion essay that's been ranked #1 for more than 20 years on Google. I'm well able to discuss this in terms of philosophical issues. I'll be happy to take any questions, any kind of challenging questions. But in the end, I find that it's very important to share our stories, because it is stories that can pierce the heart in ways in which arguments cannot. And it's very difficult for people to be face-to-face to someone who they really are devaluing, and to be able to stick with that kind of position that really is quite harsh for someone like me. I just came off of a trip from Northern Ireland and from the Republic of Ireland, where they've been facing legal challenges in the courts related to this issue. And we're seeing battles all across Latin America as well. And so I've volunteered my time to be able to come here. Great sacrifice to my family. I have 5 children, and I'd love to be at home with them, but I feel that it's very important to come here and to share my story and to hope that the other stories from my organization can be shared as well. And I'm hoping that the women who are raising their children here in Malta, who love their children dearly, and also those who are conceived in rape, will come forward to share on how their life is valuable. Many times there's a stigma associated, and people feel that. They know what people say about abortion in cases of rape, and they feel targeted like I felt targeted when I learned that I was 18. And oftentimes they don't have the courage to come forward and share their stories. And so I'm hoping that by others hearing my story, they would feel supported and they would feel the courage to come forward. We have a very unique kinship with my organization, Save the One, because we have this life circumstance that many people cannot relate to. And so I'm hoping that my story will have an impact that way as well, so that no one will have to feel alone in this. But I want people to know that every life matters. Every child is deserving of protection. I was conceived in rape when my birth mother was abducted at knife point by a serial rapist. She actually went to 2 so-called back alley illegal abortions, and I was almost aborted. She was pro-choice when we met and maintained that it should have been her right. Then years later, she changed her mind about abortion. And today, my birth mother and I are both thankful that we were both spared the horror of abortion. I wasn't lucky. I was protected. And I'm so grateful that my life was spared, but the most selfish thing to do would just be to go on and live my life and not worry about the others. But I do feel like my life was spared from a burning building. And as I have the opportunity to go back and save others, I'm going to do it. Because every child deserves the same protection that I had received in Michigan at the time, which was just 3 years before Roe versus Wade, which is the landmark U.S. Supreme Court case that legalized abortion across the United States. It is absolutely barbaric to punish an innocent child for someone else's crime. Civilized societies do not do this. If you begin to ask the abortion rights advocates who are trying to advocate for abortion in cases of rape, if you ask them about the death penalty for rapists, you will find that they will all of a sudden start talking about civil rights and human rights and the rights of rapists. And yet, they're ready to seek the death penalty for the innocent child without even so much as a trial. But they merely advocate for a woman to be able to simply say she was raped and have ultimately abortion on demand for any reason. And the rape issue is used as an excuse by the abortion rights advocates to open the door for abortion on demand for any reason. And I am tired of these people taking aim at my people group. And I'm asking them to put down their arms and stop attacking my people group. And if you really care about rape victims, you should punish rapists, not babies. And you should protect the rape victim from the rapist and from the abortion, and not the baby. The baby is not the scary enemy. I'm hoping also during this week to meet with legislators and to see my model legislation from another organization I co-founded, to terminate the parental rights of rapists. The Rape Survivor Child Custody Act was co-sponsored by a Democrat and a Republican in the United States Congress, and it was signed by President Obama a year and a half ago. It gives an incentive to states to pass this law, terminating the parental rights of rapists. And so I've been working hard over the last several years to get this law passed, along with other members of my organization, to get this law passed from state to state. And we've been seeing it passed unanimously in many states, in Michigan, in Iowa, in Georgia. This is all in the past year, in Indiana. And then last summer, when I was in Brazil, I spoke at the Capitol, and we introduced the law during my trip to Brazil. I'm hoping to see this law introduced here in Malta, because again, rape victims deserve to be protected from the rapist. And I think that we can open it up for questions now.
Bħalma qaltilkom fl-istorja tagħha issa nixtieq nikkonkludi billi nistidinkom ukoll Life Network Malta apparti mill-istiden lil Rebecca biex tuħu sehem f'diskussjonijiet fl-iskejjel, dibattiti fl-università u anka programmi fuq il-medja lokali. Il-viżit ta' Rebecca se tilħaq il-qofol tagħha billi se tipparteċipa fil-March for Life nhar is-Sibt 3 ta' Diċembru li ltaqgħu fil-5:30 quddiem Kastilja fejn imbagħad bix-xema f'idejna nimxu u sakemm nispiċċaw quddiem il-Parlament fejn Rebecca tagħmel id-diskors u tkompli anke tagħti xi ħsibijiet tagħha s-sitwazzjoni lokali. Issa min hawn jixtieq jagħmel xi mistoqsijiet lil Rebecca, hekk jogħġobkom tistgħu tagħmluhomla.
Questions?
Yes.
Maybe you can share your views about the morning after pill. It's basically start to be available in pharmacies very soon in Malta after the authorities have given the go-ahead.
Sure. Okay, first of all, people need to understand how the morning after pill operates. Number one, if you have not ovulated, it can prevent ovulation. Number two, if you have ovulated, it can prevent conception. But number three, if you have conceived, it could prevent implantation, which occurs approximately 1 week after conception. So it could create a hostile environment, so there's no opportunity for the preborn child to be able to implant. And
I'm not sure I understand.
I'll explain.
Needs another explanation.
So in the United States, what we see happening is, well, first of all, in the wake of Roe versus Wade, the American Academy of OBGYNs redefined pregnancy as implantation. And so doctors really aren't even giving women informed consent when it comes to the morning after pill. So they'll tell women that this won't terminate a pregnancy, when it can. But they feel like that women don't need to know anything further because they determined that pregnancy begins at implantation. And so that's a problem, that women aren't even being told the truth about the morning after pill and how it operates, like as if they can't be trusted with that information. I remember there was a candidate who was asked, his name is Ron Paul, he's a physician, and he was asked about 5 years ago in a presidential debate about this question. He mentioned the morning after pill, and I remember that a news reporter challenged him because he knew better, and he said to him, well, so then that would be an abortion, so you would end the life, right? And this candidate said, well, no, not necessarily, because there might be a life there and there might not. You don't really know. Like, wow, you would never advocate for a foreign policy where you could drop bombs with drones when there might be a person down there or there might not. I mean, and that's really what this policy is, to allow the morning after pill when you don't know or not if there is a person there. And I tell people, look, you wouldn't pull out of your driveway, you wouldn't back your car out if you thought there might be a person standing behind you, because human life is precious, and if you're going to err, you would err on the side of caution where there might be a person. The other thing is that it really is a heavy-duty hormone, and I know that you had legalized the birth control here. I'm asked this question by students. I was asked this morning this question by students. And I'm very concerned about women's health. When it comes to some of these serious hormones that they're being given, the World Health Organization, which is, you know, really a liberal organization, classified hormonal birth control as a class 1 carcinogen. And women aren't even being told this. They're not being told, you know, links to cancer, to breast cancer with hormonal birth control. And so I'm very concerned about what's happening to women's health, and I'm also concerned about what's happening to our water supply. I mean, in the UK, where they have legalized hormonal birth control, they're seeing the fish in the estuaries and rivers turn into hermaphrodites, where they're finding mixed gender in some of these fish because there's so many hormones going into the water supply, and you can't get rid of it. And the only way is by reverse osmosis, and with every gallon that is cleaned, you have 3 gallons polluted. So I'm very concerned about that. And then the other issue with Plan B, or with the morning after pill, is also potential misuse. People who will take it later, or they'll, you know, overdose on it, take too much, hoping that they may be a day late, or they might be a month late, but they could start taking this to try to end their pregnancy, and I worry about the harm that it could cause to the women and children.
Any more questions?
Let me address one other thing, because I saw this discussion on Facebook this morning in a group where there's about 500,000, and somebody brought this up and asked, you know, what about rape? And many of the people kept saying, well, there's the morning after pill. And then some people like literally said things like, well, if she's so stupid to not take the morning after pill, she could have done it. And I feel like because of the availability of the morning after pill, there seems to be less compassion for a rape victim, and also a complete lack of understanding of when rape victims find out they're pregnant, typically, and even what rape victims go through, that most are in denial. There's a book called I Never Called It Rape. It's very difficult for women to acknowledge that this awful thing has been done to them. And so to now expect that a true rape victim, you know, quote, a true rape victim would have gone to the hospital, would have gotten the morning after pill, I feel like there's actually now a lack of compassion for what most rape victims really go through. Most rape victims do not ever report the crime. In the United States, it's estimated that only 25% report the crime, and that it's not usually done right away. And so to sit there and just, you know, say, oh, if you were really raped, everybody knows, you know, you would have just gotten the morning after pill, is really a disservice to women and to rape victims.
Can I ask a question? Yes. Let's get away a bit from the rape situations. Let's look a bit at young teenagers who today look upon sex not necessarily within a relationship. How can we convince young people of all the beautiful tools that you gave us? Do you encounter these situations?
I have a friend who had a saying that I thought was really profound. He said, you can't put a condom on the heart, and there's an awful lot of broken hearts out there. And I thought that that is, you know, so right on. And I tell my sons, I tell my daughters, when, you know, they see girls at school who are quite promiscuous, and I tell them, you need to understand that this is a girl who's really hurting. You know, this is a girl who doesn't know her worth. She doesn't know how valuable she is and how much she matters. and they kind of think now their sexuality represents power for them. But most of them, what they really want is to be cared for, to know that they matter, and they'll settle for even just momentary physical intimacy as a substitute for really a deep longing for true intimacy. And again, I think that you have to have compassion for these girls instead of just judging them and condemning them and calling them names. Instead, I think that I mentioned this to somebody this morning that I struggled with those issues when I was younger, and I'm sure that people would have looked at me during this time period that I was struggling and just might have thought, oh, she's a train wreck. She's just a total mess. Look at her, and just kind of written me off instead of trying to engage with me and offer me hope and encourage me and tell me what my value and my worth is. Years later, someone did that in my life, and it transformed my life. But it was after I had already been beat up and suffered in some violent relationships.
Thank you very much. Grazie ħafna tal-li ġejtu. Nistidnukom tkunu anka preżenti forsi fl-attivitajiet li se tkun qed tagħmel Rebecca bħal debate fl-Università u anka ir-Rally for Life. Grazzi ħafna.
Thank you.